Today we're going to take a look at this display piece of Israeli coins. These are going to be called the Israel coins withdrawn from circulation. And I like the note under here. It says all coins in guaranteed perfect condition. And I'm going to say there are a few that are not perfect on here, but we coin collectors like to quibble over that. So what we have here is going to be coins from the earliest days of when Israel was its own country. So we're talking about the late 1940s. And then when they were withdrawn from circulation, there was a replacement series of coins that started in 1958. So this could have been produced anywhere after 1958 with coins that were made before 1958. Most of the coins on here are going to be dated on the Jewish calendar. It's going to say have the number 709. At the time, the Israeli calendar would have implied the millennium of 5, so the year 5709 on our calendar is 1949. But that doesn't guarantee it was the year the coins were made. A lot of these were frozen dates, and then the same year was used on subsequent years. And there are some that are different that I'll point out. During this monetary system, there were 1,000 pruta made 1 lira. And so these are numbered from 1 all the way up to 250. So a quarter of a lira shown here. Also, a lot of these coins during this time were made with or without a pearl. And as we zoom in on that, what we would be looking for is there is an oval that is underneath the date, and if it had a pearl, there would be a tiny little dot that shows up underneath the pearl. It does not appear on that one, but here, as we look at this one right here, you can see a tiny little dot. On most of these, the no pearl version is the more common version. However, on this one pruta, the dot or the pearl is the more common version on this one. I don't know if that was intended to be a mint mark, but it kind of acts like one. The ones without a pearl, I believe, were minted by a private company in Britain, and the ones with the mint mark, with the pearl, were made at a mint in Israel, which I believed was a mint which dated back to what we would consider ancient times. However, the coins on here that have a newer date than 1949, I believe most of them were minted in Tel Aviv. So we have 10 coins here. We're going to take a look at all of the obverses here, which are pretty much the same on all of it. It has the denomination written on here, and then we'll flip it over and look at the side, the reverse on here. So we have a 1 pruta here, which is made out of aluminum. Then we come over to the 5 pruta, which is made out of bronze. And then zooming out here, we've got 4 different versions of the 10 pruta. So we come to this one right here, which to me appears to have been cleaned. But the 10 pruta, this original version is the largest version at 27 millimeter. And then they replaced that with a scalloped edge aluminum 10 millimeter that has a date of 1952 on our calendar. And then that one was replaced with the aluminum round version. This one has a date of 1957. And then the same year, there was this version, which is aluminum that is copper electroplated aluminum. So I don't know that I've ever seen a copper aluminum coin before other than this one. And you can see that the copper layer must be really thin because it's kind of worn through on here. So not a perfect coin, but it kind of shows how there is an aluminum version underneath it. So there's 4 different versions of the 10 on here. The last 2 were both dated 1957. Then we're going to come over to the 25, which is a copper nickel. We have the 50, which is also copper nickel. Here is the 100 Pruta, which is also copper nickel, and then finally the 250 copper nickel. One other thing I'll point out while we're on this side is the two tin Prutas from 1957. They pronounced it Prutat instead of Pruta, so they have a little bit of a different spelling on the currency on those. So let's flip it over, and we're going to come back to the 1 Pruta. Now, all of these coins on the reverse are going to have the name Israel written in both Hebrew and Arabic on both sides. So the 1 Pruta aluminum is going to be going to feature an anchor. This one is catalog KM9. And then the 5 is going to feature a 4-string lyre instrument. It's KM10. Move over to the original 10 Pruta. This one's KM11. This features a pitcher here called an amphora. And then with the next pitcher, the scalloped edge version, features a different pitcher. It's called a ceremonial pitcher, flanked by sprigs, and then the round aluminum one has the same design, and then the copper plated one also has the same design. I don't believe there are any changes between those. And then when we move to the 25, have to spin them around since they've had years to spin in here. So the 25, made out of copper nickel, features grapes. Now, there are 10 coins listed on here, and they had all of the different varieties of the 10, but there's some varieties of these larger denomination coins that they did not include. Perhaps it would have been more expensive for them to have come up with it, but this 25 here, KM12, there was a nickel-clad steel 12A that was dated 1954 that is not included here. So as we move to the 50, put that one upside down. This one features grape leaves. Catalog number in this one is 13.2 because it is a plain edge coin. The earlier version of this coin was reeded. There's also a nickel-clad steel version of this coin that is not included. And then as we move over to the 100, this one features a date palm tree. This one is 28.5 millimeters, is KM14, and there was a reduced size 25.6 version of this coin, and even that one had a couple of different versions. One of them is super rare, having to do with the edge on it. And then as we move to the 250, this one is KM15, and it features barley spears. There's also a silver version of this one that was not intended to circulate. They also made a 500 Pruta, which also was not intended to circulate. So I bought this one because I just thought it was an interesting piece to see this made that looks like it was something from the 60s. So this is probably 50 or 60 years old at least. But I also knew I did not have the 250. As it turns out, I didn't have the all-aluminum version of this tin right here. I paid $8 for this piece, but if you were to add up the book value of everything on here, it's the Krause catalog says these have a book value total of $13.70. I don't know of anyone that would come through here and cut out the little hexagons and try and sell them separately. I don't know how successful you would be. But the most valuable one is the 250, since that one is harder to come by. That one books for $3.50. The bronze 5 Pruta is in decent condition, but also it was the no pearl version, which was actually the rare version of that coin. So that one made it a couple of dollars. And then also the 25 right here is really good shape. That one was worth $3. So this was manufactured by a company called Eastanic, or maybe that's named after a person. I'm guessing it was a souvenir store and not a coin store. Of course, it says here coins, stamps, and souvenirs. And they must have had 3 locations because it lists their main store, 64 Allenby Road in Tel Aviv. I actually looked this up in Google Street View, and today it's a clothing store. But they must have also had branches inside of a couple of hotels, because it lists the Hilton and the Sheraton both in Tel Aviv on here. So that probably certainly would have been for tourists. I doubt you'd find a coin store inside of a hotel. As we flip it back over and look at the writing that was on the side with the denominations, pretty much the same writing on both sides. So since it is 50 or 60 years old, it does have some wrinkles going through it. I don't know how much anyone cares about that, since this is not produced by a mint anywhere. And I don't really like how some of the bubbles on here are not too great. Some of them have little bumps in the middle of it. And of course, something like this, all of these coins have had decades to kind of roll around in here, and I can't really get them back into the way it is. But still, I like having this. So, all right, thanks for watching, and I'll have a different coin video up in a few days. Thanks for watching. Bye.